Trying to get a job in the games industry as an animator can be incredibly frustrating, and if you're anything like me, you've got an inbox full of rejections. But despite that, I can't really see myself working in any other industry, and I'd like to stay here for the long term. So, I'd like to share some tips that I think might help you get that first interview. Today I want to expand a little bit about gameplay animation as a concept and some of the responsibilities that you might find on the job. And at the end, we'll go over some tips that I think could strengthen a portfolio to be geared for gameplay animation. At a high level, gameplay animation is any animation that relates to gameplay. And while this sounds self-explanatory based on the title, we have a few different variations in the field. Some notable examples might be world or AI animators, view model animators, gameplay animators as in player-centric gameplay, or even dedicated creature animators to name a few. Animator responsibilities can vary depending on the studio. Larger studios tend to need more focused, specialized roles, and smaller teams tend to need animators with a broader skill set, so be sure to read the job description to get a good idea of what the studio is asking for. One core difference that differs gameplay animation from most other animation fields is the additional technical and design challenges that come from building a game. This creates a fairly iterative workflow, but allows for more creative freedom as you can do almost anything as long as it respects the design vision and function. As you might expect, animating is the first part of this job, but your ability to animate within the project style should always be expected. If a team is unsure, there typically might be an animation test or sufficient mentorship structure within the team to capitalize on potential. To expand on your animation responsibilities, it's important to be able to iterate quickly and be flexible. Getting your work playable in the engine as soon as possible is a huge boon to the team, as it shows you know how to communicate your ideas without spending too much time getting lost in the details. This can be really difficult to get right at first, but it's a core part of what we do. In my experience, most gameplay animation roles involve the presence of a designer for whichever feature your team is responsible for. Knowing how to balance art and design along with a well-developed communication skill is how you'll find success here. In addition, you may be called on to collaborate with your tech art and concept art teams to brainstorm how a character should be built, along with what rig features you might need. This is a great place to make requests for features that might make your job easier. Smaller teams may require you to collaborate with disciplines further outside the sphere of animation, like programmers and VFX. Knowing where animation sits in the pipeline and how it affects other disciplines will make you a better collaborator overall. A growing requirement for gameplay animators is the implementation, testing, and debugging of your animations. Getting comfortable with a game engine and knowing how to test your work allows you to ensure that it feels and functions exactly as intended. In my opinion, this is a pretty critical step to the role, as gameplay feel is such a big part of a successful system. Especially with how lean teams are getting, it never hurts to have a couple more skills in your toolkit to stay competitive. A common line of thought might be, why do I need to test my animations in Engine? I can easily showcase how they work in 3D software. It's important to consider that one of the challenges of making appealing gameplay animation is that it not only looks good, but it feels good to play as well. You can make an animation that hits all the right rules, but it feels awful and sluggish at the press of a button. A great example would be to compare player-specific animation in Super Smash Bros. And Monster Hunter Wilds. Both games have good gameplay animation, but exist on two different extremes. While stylization has a part to play in this, Smash is a very strict, design-driven game that offers extremely limited frames per action to its animators. A closer look would reveal the animation to be quite simple, and rapidly changing from pose to pose. However, Smash feels incredible to play, and each frame and pose is extremely well utilized. With Wilds, each attack is given an extraordinary amount of frames and you have so much time to feel the weight of each attack. Despite this difference, it also feels incredible to play. Every weapon feels responsive, and the recovery windows don't feel sluggish. Both games are able to achieve responsiveness and satisfaction in their gameplay despite being animated quite differently. A second good example would be to consider how boss movesets are designed in Elden Ring. Anticipation is a well-known principle of animation, and in games is commonly known as a telegraph. Humans naturally understand rhythm, which is why when the timing is on beat, players can feel the correct dodge window. However, FromSoft makes deliberate choices to have attacks happen on offbeats to confuse players. If you only view your animation in software, you won't be able to place yourself in the shoes of a player with a controller. A final example would be to verify the clarity of your animation. You want to ask yourself each time you test an animation if it's communicating what you intended. This is especially important for competitive games. I've mentioned this at an earlier point in the video, but reading the job description in detail is important. This may sound like common sense advice, but I've seen plenty of applications that didn't feature a single animation that related to the project. A first step would be to find out what kind of game it is. If it's a first-person shooter, you'll know to include some view model work, assuming that the role is for the player. When it comes to animating loops, isolated loops only tell us one part of the story. Instead of just animating a run, you can animate an idle, a run start, a run loop, and a run stop instead. This communicates that you understand how gameplay states function, even if it isn't showcased within a game engine. Although you should still try to get it in the game engine. You can also show smaller game-oriented movements like turns, sits, stands, or even idle variations. Everyone can put a flashy combo into a reel, but these tasks are just as important when building a game. Get familiar with any of the free game engines to bolster your technical skills. Across most of my interviews, I've been asked about my technical capacity with a game engine. It's safe to assume it's just become part of the gameplay animation role, and you don't really need to learn that much. Just enough to put your animations in the game and playtest them. If you don't know where to start, study the demo reels of recent hires at the studio you're applying for. Projects can vary wildly in style and function, and there's no better way than to look at the source. Try to keep the reels within a couple of years. To wrap up this video, I have some resource suggestions to get you started. I'll leave links to them in the description. The Intro to Game Animation course by Agora is an excellent way to get familiar with Unreal. It covers how to animate and build a simple locomotion system complete with state machines and additive blend spaces. I also highly recommend the channel New Frame Plus, run by Dan Floyd. The content delivery is easy to understand, and he covers a wide variety of topics. My personal favorite is his breakdown of classical animation principles and how they apply to games. Please go and subscribe to him. Finally, I recommend Game Anim by Jonathan Cooper. It is a comprehensive resource that covers everything about the game development process as it pertains to an animator. This is an absolute must-have. Closing things up, I want to thank you all for watching. It's been a little while since my last video, and after breaking through decision paralysis, I'm glad to be able to publish something new. An extended thank you for all those who provided me with their feedback in the making of this video, as well as lending me their work to be featured. I'll be posting their socials on the screen, so be sure to give them a follow. If there's something you'd like to see me cover in the future, let me know in the comments below. Until then, I'll see you next time.